Hallo und herzlich willkommen. Sorry. Hello and welcome. Today we are going to be discussing German genders. So German genders, and we'll do a little bit on cases, because if you don't understand the cases, you can't fully understand the genders. And that's one of the things about German, that the cases play a big part as well. Now, that's the difference between French and German that you'll find. And if you've watched my French video, in which case you're probably a dual language student, in which case, congratulations, join the club, then you should find that this builds slightly off of that, and there's a couple of references to it. So we're going to start very simply with the bit that you should have learnt in Year 7, that your teacher should have taught you, which is that there's masculine, there's feminine, and then there's neuter. And then there's also plural. Now I'm drawing a line there because plural isn't a gender, as hopefully you know. It's just another part. A noun can be a masculine plural noun, or a feminine plural noun, or a neuter plural noun. Plural just means that there's more than one. So you can have die Männer, you can have die Freundinnen, the female friends, and you can have die Häuser, the houses. So plural is really not something to do with gender, it's just number. But we've already covered now what the for plural is. So we're going to cover what the definite article is, because the definite article, and the indefinite article as well, because the definite article is the word the in English, and the indefinite article is the word a. So if we're starting with plural, as we have just done, the definite article for plural is die. Die Häuser, die Männer, die Freundinnen. However, you can't have an indefinite article for plural nouns, can you? It's only something like, you know, it would be like saying our birds, our houses. You can't say that. However, you can have indefinite articles for these three. Now, masculine, feminine, neuter, all genders, as I've said, but, you know, this is what you use to say the, and then for a noun that uses this gender. A quick note to make sure is that you know is that masculine doesn't necessarily think it's a manly thing, and feminine doesn't necessarily mean that it's a feminine thing. And sometimes words disobey the idea of it being male or female or neutral. So, for example, the word for girl, Mädchen, is actually neutral because it has the suffix chen at the end, which makes it neutral. So, the masculine is der, and we'll come on to why I'm putting an asterisk here on this whole thing. The feminine is die, which I can't write clearly, and the neuter is das. So der Mann, the man, die Frau, and das Haus. The indefinite article is ein, so ein Mann, eine, so eine Frau, and ein Haus. Now, this is what you should have learnt in Year 7. This was what you should have been told when you were writing about family or food or something like that. And you would have been told that, you know, you have der Vater, for example, and ein Vater. And then when you wrote something like ich mag mein Vater, or ich mag der Vater, then you wouldn't have been told that it's wrong, because it technically is wrong. But you would have just been nodded at and told, okay, fine. And that's why I'm putting an asterisk there, because this changes with the cases. The cases just, by the way, if you don't know what cases are, the cases are just the bits in German that tell you how what a word does in a sentence. So it's the difference between saying der Mann mag die Katze, the man likes the cat, and die Katze mag den Mann, the cat likes the man. It's just the different ways of defining the rules. And if you've done Russian or another language that has similar rules like that, or if you're a native speaker of Russian or a Slavic language or Polish or whatever, then you'll find that the cases are a bit easier. They're not the same because German is Germanic, not Slavic, but you will find that you can understand the concept a lot better. As well, similarly, if you've done something like Finnish, it will come across a bit better. However, For now, these are the ones that you would have learnt. They're the baseline from which you work. Now, in my French video, I went from this. Hopefully you've noted this down. If you haven't, then you can go back and listen to me talking again. Then we went from this onto the sort of my, his, her. They're called possessive adjectives. Now, we're going to do that now, but I'm going to write next to it what the actual person it's referring to in German is, because there are some words where we have one word, and in German they have many, and you'll see what I mean. So my, your, his, no, that's sie, our, wir, their, sie, your, sie, your, yeah. Now, these aren't the possessive adjectives here, these are the pronouns. So the pronouns are the ones that say who is doing something. So, for example, these are the subjects of the sentence, or I'll cover subjects in a minute, but these are the people who would do something. So if you were trying to say, for example, John eats a burger, then you could replace John with he. And so that's the word for he. That's not the word for his, for example. That's not the word for her. That's the word for she, for example. And that's just the way it's going. Just to demonstrate to you this one very crucial point, that if you look, we have sie, er, and du. Now, why do we have sie, er, and du? Now, sie, er, and du, here's the difference. Du is for a singular person, so one person who's informal to you. So it's a friend. It's someone who you know very well, who you can say du to. So, for example, you would say, du bist gut. That's literally a very basic sentence. You are good. That would be to a friend or someone who you know very well. However, saying sie sind gut, you are good, that would be to a boss or someone who you need to be formal to, and it's one person again, although actually that could be many. So you could say sie sind gut to several bosses or several colleagues potentially. However, you in the er sense is informal and it's many people, so it's many friends. So you could say ihr seid gut, you are good to many friends, or many people who you know very well. It's just a matter of formality, so knowing where you stand in relation to other people. Another thing that confuses people is the ZZ and the Z. Now the three Z's are very different because the way that the verb changes with them is different, which we'll come on to in a later video hopefully. But ZZ and Z. Now this Z is the formal one, as you know, it's for you. This Z is for they, and this Z is for she. You just need to be able to read it alongside a verb and know, okay, they put together that way, so they're different. It's just a matter of being able to test it that way. However, let's get on to actually how you do the definite article. So I'm not going to keep repeating the possessive adjective. I'm so silly. The possessive adjective. Right. Now, I'm just going to write pos here because it's easier than writing possessive article or adjective, whatever you want to call it, every single time. And I'm going to draw up some rules over this side just so you know how the genders work in relation and the pluralization. My is mine, and then you put the endings on. Your is dein, and then you put the endings on. His is sein, then you put the endings on. Her is ihr, then you put the endings on. Ours is unser, then you put the endings on. There is ihr again, but then it's ihr again. But this time it has a capital, and it needs a capital because when it's formal in German, that formal you, sie, has a capital. And so everything that expresses that U needs a capital as well, so ear with a capital. And then that U, which is actually called ear, so ear Zeit, so that's plural, many people who you are close with, that takes euer. Now that E can be removed if needs be, and it very often is. Now, for the actual relation to the genders. Now, for masculine, then you add nothing. For the feminine, you add E. For the neuter, you add nothing. And for the plural, you add E. Now, I will be having to tell you at some point why I'm going to draw a massive, big, fat asterisk by that. And it's the cases again. The cases. So, this will change with the cases, and we will come on to that in a minute. But as for now, this is the basic one. This is the one that you did in Year 7, where you said mein Vater, meine Mutter, meine Schwestern, my sisters. Schwestern? Schwester. Yeah, Schwestern. So, that's it. That is it. That is the basic, the groundwork, the foundation stone from which you need to work from. Dead easy, hopefully. Hopefully you've learnt all this. If not, you can go back and read it and note it down. Mein, dein, sein, ihr, unser, ihr, euer. Now that euer there, if you add an E to it or you add anything to it, usually you can disappear the E. Usually. So for example, Germans, native Germans won't say eure, they will say eure. It's a very small difference, very tiny, but it should be clear once you start listening to Germans. So let's start on the actual cases. So the best way to start off explaining cases is if you've seen, because I remember when I was in Year 7 and 8, where I didn't do, when we were talking about going to town or being in town, there was a difference between in der Stadt and in die Stadt. Okay, and I'll explain that difference to you in a bit. It's the same difference as having im Kino and ins Kino. Okay, and it will become easier. I will explain it to you fully, hopefully, and it is really quite arduous to remember a lot of the time, but it is, eventually you get used to it. Now the first thing I'm going to note to you is that this word in, yeah, if you don't know, in English that's called a preposition. It's something that tells you where something is exactly, or the relation between two objects physically, or in time. So for example, while I was eating pizza, while would be a preposition because it's actually the bit that tells you the relation in time. So it's words like while, in, under, during, through, those sorts of words that tell you about position, either in time or space. Right. Now let's write for us a basic sentence. I give him a ball. Now, first of all, in German, I'm not going to write it in German yet. Right. In English, can you tell me, if you want to pause the video, you can do, and we'll work through this. Does anyone know, or do you know, which one is the subject? You can pause it here if you want and have a guess. Okay, have you guessed? It's I. And the reason it's I, which I'm going to put subj by, is because I is the thing that is doing the thing. The thing doing it. The thing which does. Okay, so if you had another sentence like I like cats, then I would again be the subject because it's the thing which does. The cat eats the fish. The cat is the thing which is eating. So the cat is the subject. So Him. Now we'll come on to him, but first of all we will have to debate the difference between him and a ball, because they are both forms of something called the object. Now if you haven't done the object, so I'm going to write obj at the end of both, obj. They are different forms of the object, and the object is the thing which is acted upon, the thing which is affected by the action. So if I said the cat eats the fish, then you would actually have a case where the fish is the thing which is acted upon, and so it's the object. However, there is a difference between two types of object, and we will get on to that. Now, there is, first of all, we have the direct object, and then we have an indirect object. Now, the direct object and indirect object are very different. Now, the direct object is the thing which is directly affected. It is the thing which is directly done unto. So, directly acted upon. So, the in the this is really weird to explain, but it's directly acted upon. So in German it has something called the accusative case, but it's directly acted upon. So the ball is directly acted upon because it's given, and that's why it's directly acted upon. If you have the cat eats the fish again, the fish is directly acted upon, so it's not just an object, it's a direct object. However, him, why is it an indirect object? Because it's indirectly there. It doesn't need to be there. And as well, it's indirectly affected by the action. So, I suppose him, I give him a ball, it is sort of, but it's indirect in the sentence. So, I give a ball is a perfectly good sentence. I give him is not. And the reason is because him is an indirect object. It's not necessarily needed. It's an afterthought. It's something which is affected by the sentence, but in a sort of afterthoughty way. Very often it comes with a preposition. So, for example, if you wanted to say, I give a ball in a more roundabout way, you could say, I give a ball to him. And that would literally be showing that it's the indirect object. So it's indirectly acted upon. It's indirect. I bet there's a better definition somewhere in here that I've missed out, but we'll have a look-see. Because I do have a book here, admittedly, because as much as I'm great at things, wow, I'm not fantastically great at things. So let's see. It says in this book here, an indirect object answers the question of who, to, or for what. So, I give him a ball, it's to him, it's for him. So, to/for what. Now this difference here, in English, if you're not wanting to be a fancy grammar bot, it doesn't matter too much. In German, it matters a lot more, because they use two different cases, and we'll come on to those. But just so you know, some really quick definitions, some speedy definitions. The I in German, now that's going to take the nominative. The nominative is always used for the subject. Always. The direct object, that takes the accusative, because it is directly being accused. It's pointed at almost. It's directly acted upon. And the indirect object takes the dative. And this is also a good note. The dative also comes after many, many prepositions. So nominative, accusative, dative. There's a fourth one as well, which we'll come on to, but we won't come on to it yet. So nominative, accusative, dative. Okay. Again, if you need to recap that, just go back. So, where do we start? So the nominative, which I'm just going to shorthand as nom, which you will see in a lot of dictionaries and a lot of grammar guides, that's the one where you have der / die, pardon me, / das, ein / eine / ein / nothing because / ein, and yeah, and then there's again die for plural, and then there's nothing because you don't have birds or whatever, plural. Now the accusative, now I'm going to keep using this form because if I can write it out like this, it should look neat. Now usually you get a massive table and it's really chunky, but sometimes that doesn't help. As long as you know that this is masculine, feminine, neuter, and plural. So let's go on to the accusative, the object of some sentences. Den, die, das, and die. Den, die, das, die. And einen, eine, ein. Ein, den, einen, die, eine, das, ein. And then die, and then that's for plural. So there's only one that changes for accusative. And this is also why when you said ich mag der Vater in year 7, you were wrong, because it should be ich mag den Vater, because the father is the object of that sentence. You are liking onto the father, so you are acting upon the father. So ich mag den Vater. Yeah. So now I shouldn't rub it off. So the dative is where it begins to get a bit wacky. So that turns into no, that's the wrong one. Dem, der, dem, and den. And then you have einem, einer, einem, and then yeah. Now in this case, this means that, for example, ich gab, so if that's I gave, ich gab der eine Katze, I think das Essen. Ich gab eine Katze das Essen. I gave the food to a cat. Now, eine Katze, you need the R at the end. Or ich gab der Katze das Essen. That's for the indirect objects. To or for him. And there's a series of prepositions you'll get for that. And that includes in, it includes zu, it includes mit. The one for accusative that I can think of is for. So, for example, you don't see für, you don't say für dem Vater, you say für den Vater, for example. So into and mit, often dative, except in, and I think zu as well is a bit sort of, you know. But the rest of them work. So, and then the final one, which you haven't been done with yet, is the genitive. And that's the one I'm going to put with a dot, because genitive, you should be able to spell that hopefully. Now this one means of the or of a. So for example, der Vater eines Hund, der Vater eines Hund would be the dad of a dog. Der Vater eines Plants, the father of a plant. But basically, it works like this: des, der, des, der, eines, einer, eines, and then nothing for the plural. So, this means of the or of a. So, and you also get a nice little plus s on the end of any masculine or any neuter nouns. So it's not just der Vater eines Pflanz, it's der Vater eines Pflanzes, because you need that plus es on the end. It's sometimes plus es and sometimes. Or der Sohn eines Vaters, that's the son of a dad. So it's, and then you, so hopefully, if you need more info on the genitive case, then just put it in the comments down below and I will do more on the genitive case. I know that this is very brief, but it's like how in English we say a cat's fish, but in German it swaps round. So where we say a cat's fish, so a cat's fish, in German they swap it around, so it's like a fish of a cat. But they have a special case so that you don't just say ein Fisch von einer Katze, you say ein Fisch einer Katze, and it's just so much more efficient. Okay? So hopefully that explains a bit more. Now, there are some rules on how you should end your the sort of meine, the possessive pronouns, as we call them. No, not possessive pronouns, that's the wrong one. Possessive adjectives, but that comes through in these. Now, you will notice something. I'm about to underline the ends here, some suffixes. Wherever I have underlined a suffix, what you can do is when you have a possessive adjective, so you have mein or ihr or euer or unser, what you can do is you can literally just see what the a form of it. So, for example, for the accusative masculine, you have einen. Then you don't have to worry about what exactly mine for the masculine accusative is going to be. It's going to be meinen, because you have that at the end of the a. You just add an M in front, effectively. Or if you have to say in her house, then you don't worry about what the ending on her is going to be. You just look at what the ending for in a house is, in einem Haus, and then you just add that to her, in ihrem Haus. See? It's easier than it looks. As long as you know this, then there's so much more you can build off of. Or of her friend. Well, what's the ending for her in that case? Well, you just look for what of a friend would be. Eines Freund. In fact, it would be eines Freundes. Then you just take the es and you move it. So, ihres Freundes. Once you've learnt this, it becomes dead easy. So easy. This is your master table. Now, there are a few side rules, and there's a lot more to do with prepositions, because there are thousands and thousands, well, hundreds of prepositions to learn in any language. But into and mit are the key ones, and for are some that you will regularly come across. That is why when you say with my friends, you don't say you don't say mit meiner Freund. You say mit meinen Freunden. That's also a good note. When you pluralize in the dative, sometimes you have to add en. So, for example, Freunden. So, Freunden, en, mit meinen Freunden. Dead easy once you get used to it. I hope I can rub this off because I'm about to explain something else. Okay? If you need it explaining again, just rewind. and pause or whatever. Now the final bit I'm going to explain to you is why there is a difference between in die Stadt and in der Stadt. And this is the same difference between im Kino, well in fact it would be ins Kino in that case, and im Kino. Right, now the first task I'm going to give you on this is, can you identify what case these are? Because these use two different cases and these use two different cases. It's okay to have a go and a guess. So pause and have a guess. So this one is, now I'm going to say that you guess that those two are either in the nominative or accusative. You're correct. It's the accusative. And this one are in the dative. Now there is a reason for that. And the reason is that this one expresses movement and this one doesn't. This one expresses movement and this one doesn't. If you need to say, for example, I'm going to town, you don't say ich gehe in der Stadt, even though in a lot of the time uses the dative case after it. In German, because you're going somewhere, you have to use the accusative with in. So you don't say ich gehe in der Stadt, you say ich gehe in die Stadt. I'm going into town. In German as well, ins Kino, you don't say ich gehe im Kino, you say ich gehe ins Kino. So that's the difference. Okay, hopefully you understand that. And then as long as you're not moving in that direction or that direction, you can use that. So for example, in der Stadt gibt es, in town there is, im Kino gibt es, or im Kino sah ich, in the cinema I used to see, in der Stadt kann man X besuchen, in the town you can visit X. So movement, movement, not movement. Accusative, accusative, not accusative. So in changes what case it uses depending on whether you're moving or not. Alles klar? I hope this has helped. If you want anything else doing, if you want any help with anything else, please just comment below. Because I can always do something else or research it even. I enjoy researching, of course. And hopefully I shall see you all soon. So, danke, schön, schön und tschüss. Dankeschön und tschüss.